Due to own personal biases I play towards, I do not care about the ship as a whole, rather how it is treated from both the audience and the writers, and fear the impact of what their relationship has on the story as opposed to them just being lesbian. There, I saved you like 10 minutes, post your comment and leave. So with them gone, Bumblebee is a topic that many people don't like to talk about, especially if it is remotely negative due to the backlash it could very easily entail. Often, I see the exact same arguments being lashed out over and over again between so many different people on Twitter and in comment sections. These people often say things like, "They're ruining Monty's vision. It's fan service. They completely ruined X character." And on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have a bunch of people screaming, "Yas, queen, slay!" And if you feel either one of those two ways, then that's fine. You should never let anyone tell you how you should feel about a certain thing, nor should you condemn someone for having a differing opinion. You see, what I'm doing here is I'm subtly diffusing some angry comments I could just feel in the back of my brain. Not much like any video that's ever made online, this is of course my opinion, and I play by my own biases because I think for myself. If you think in this video, "Hey, he's being biased," then yeah. Everyone is biased based on their likes and dislikes. If you can name me two people who have the exact same opinion on every single thing, then that's not good. So many factors come into play for me when faced with Bumblebee and why I ultimately don't like it. I know that when it comes to any movie, show, book, any form of medium, the last thing I want to see is the relationship plot. It's my most hated aspect of any of these things because there's only so much different that can be done with it, and I often see the exact same thing over and over again. I'm not against certain characters having a specific sexual orientation, but I would rather just not have that be a plot point. It's often with series like One Piece where I find my purest amount of enjoyment. There's not a relationship plot amongst the crew, instead it's treated as one big family. Each character cares equally as much about the other as any of them, and that's the type of dynamic I personally derive the most enjoyment out of. So any relationship plot, no matter straight or gay, typically I just don't want to see in the first place. But alright, let's start from the beginning. Where did Bumblebee come from? Well, honestly, it's been there since the series' debut. Not the show itself doing anything with it, but the fans, of course, pairing them and giving them quite clever nicknames. Volume 2 was really when the whole thing actually started. First, not only using the fan-created ship names as attack moves, but Volume 2 really explored friendships, relationships, and a lot more personal aspects of the characters. And of course, within the confines of the volume was Blake and Yang. The two had many moments which fans considered romantic. Not everyone saw it that way, but it was left up for some interpretation. And it really just kept that going till today, to a point that it was more harmful than good. Volume 2 introduced the relationship plot of Blake. Potentially Yang, potentially Sun, and the show felt like, as many people described it, it was ship baiting. Oh, is she gonna get with Sun? Huh? Is she gonna get with Yang? Ponder that for 6 years. Rightfully, this angers a lot of people, constantly teasing a romantic connection and just doing nothing for so long. The show kept introducing characters like, oh, is Blake gonna be straight? No, maybe she's gonna be gay. What about this other lesbian girl? Oh, but there's this other straight guy. The show just kept teasing and teasing to a point that time feels sort of wasted in regards to all of Blake's relationship problems. I'd ask why now, but that's not the problem. The problem is, why did it take so long? Bumblebee was and is the safest LGBT ship they could have done. Yes, it seems quite controversial, but that's an in-fandom quarrel. Lesbian couples are the safest representation a show can make. How many lesbian characters are in Ruby? Blake, Yang, Ilya, Terracotta, Saffron? Compare that to the amount of gay men in the show. Scarlet? He's the one, and it was stated in the manga. Whether the writers are aware of it or not, it's more comfortable for people to see woman-on-woman action just because of how fantasized they are. Two women, that's hot, swapping crotch snot and taking a sip from that furry cup. People are just more comfortable seeing it, but it's even more shocking that it took so long to do. I'll see tweets from all kinds of people, including those who have worked on the show, saying things like, some things are just planned from the beginning. I firmly believe that a majority of the people that end up having a problem with this don't have a problem because of the fact that something was done, rather how it was done. If Blake and Yang were planned to get together from the beginning, why string us along for 5 volumes with so many other potential love interests? Why try to invest us into other relationships if they were never going to happen? And that's part of my issue with these two. Now, there's nothing wrong with a character being gay or LGBT. A common question or argument I see get brought up in regards to these types of characters is, why? What's the point of them being gay or lesbian? The honest answer to that question is, there doesn't need to be a reason, any more than a character's reason for being black or having blonde hair. So long as the character's not defined by these traits, then it's fine. So long as they have a character past their sexual orientation. Neptune is the perfect example of this. He's cool and straight. That's it, and many people don't like him because of it. Hey ladies, if you've got a vagina, then you better bet that my whole existence is to tap that because I'm cool enough to do it and I'm straight, so I'm gonna be hitting on all of you. He's a comedic relief, but he's not a good character. What do I know about him? Why is he a huntsman? What's his backstory? There is none. He's defined by his sexual orientation as well as being cool, and that's just a bad character for a show that isn't a comedy. And the same can go for LGBT characters. So long as they're not defined by their sexuality and there's a character underneath it all, then there should be no problem. But how about when it reveals it later down the road that a character happens to be gay? Now arguments get brought up saying things like, well, what does this add? How does making a character gay add to their character as a whole? It's a hard question to answer because it typically doesn't add anything, so it's extremely hard to give a rebuttal. But the appropriate rebuttal to that is, what does it take away? How does a character being gay take away from them, or the story, or anything? And a lot of the time, it doesn't. It can feel like pandering, or you may just not like it because you don't have to like every decision that is made about a character. So if you don't have an answer to what them being gay takes away, then you really should have no problems. But in the case of Bumblebee, to me, it does take something away. See, it's not because I'm homophobic or don't support LGBT representation. In fact, their sexual orientation doesn't even have anything to do with my problem with these two. When asked with the question, what does Bumblebee take away from anything, my answer is the team dynamic. The Team RWBY dynamic is hindered for Blake and Yang's relationship. Now all of a sudden you have two characters who care for each other more than they do for the other team members. It's the exact same argument for why I'm against White Rose. Key example is in episode 6. When the apathy breaks loose and everyone's in danger, what's Yang's instinctual reaction? She grabs Blake. Now that's all well and sweet, but your sister is still in there, Weiss is still in there, and hell, even your uncle is drunkenly still in there. And seeing things like that don't make me angry because, oh, what a gay couple, they're gaying up the story, you bunch of gays. No, but you guys are supposed to be a team, yet you're valuing certain members' lives above others. Am I honestly to believe that Ruby or Weiss would do anything remotely similar to what Yang is constantly doing? I should have that feeling, but I don't. Ruby and Blake so rarely talk that it's impossible to say if she would risk her life for her, and so many mixes and matches don't offer the same synergy. But what about Juniper? That whole team was practically dating within their team, but you don't have a problem with them. First, I never liked Arcos. Yeah, I know, burn me at the stake. I didn't like Jean while Pyrrha was alive, okay? He was annoying. And Renora? Honestly, yeah, I do like them, but they're not the main characters. The story doesn't revolve around Team Juniper. The show isn't titled Juniper, so they can go off into whatever side adventures necessary. He's just a Black Sun shipper. If I had to be put into either Bumblebee or Black Sun, it'd be Black Sun. Not because it's a straight couple, but because their whole story arc at least felt natural. Plus, we spent 4 of the 6 seasons focusing on them, so when I'm being dragged around for a reason, I typically like that time that was spent to pay off. Would I have liked it better if Sun and Blake were a thing? Honestly, yeah. Sun can enter and leave the narrative as he so desires, and Team RWBY could strengthen as a unit instead of pairs. But for a show titled RWBY, which revolves around this team of girls, I'm not a fan when certain characters care more about others than the rest of the team. It can pretend like it doesn't affect them, but as stated earlier, it clearly does. And before you go thinking that this bias is only on RWBY, it's not. In, say for example, Naruto, I hated the relationship aspect of Naruto liking Sakura, but Sakura likes Sasuke, but Sasuke is too cool for school. And it went on for far too long, and I constantly hated every time it kept going back to it. Same for The Legend of Korra. Any romantic subplot I found pointless and boring, and I often just turned my brain off until something else happened. Now, a lot of this Bumblebee drama I feel as though would have been different or had a different reaction amongst viewers had everything sort of been subtle all the way through. Let's say for example at the end of Volume 2, Yang and Blake just hook up. They had some very sweet and touching moments together that volume, and they just got together at the end of it, and in Volume 3 they were just a thing. I feel that a lot of the outrage would have been diffused immediately, instead of being baited through volumes 2, 3, 4, and 5 as her and Blake's relationship story. But what happened in volume 6 wasn't subtle at all. In fact, it was the exact opposite. It was in your face. Bam! We're gay. The power of lesbians is gonna pull us through this fight. It cures all ailments, and there's no obstacle that can't be overcome by the power of diversity. Look at how diverse we are because we're the main characters and we're gay. And that's just bad. Using the power of friendship, believing in one another to overcome not only mental but physical hurdles is terrible. Fairy Tail is the biggest perpetrator of this. Every single arc, every single fight, the power of friendship ends up overcoming or overpowering whatever it is they're facing, and it's bad because of it. And Ruby not only used that to beat Adam, but cement the ship as well. And of course, everyone just began screaming, "Yas, queens!" And it was just as not subtle as it could possibly come. It comes off as the company trying to scream at everyone, "Look at how diverse we are! Eh?" Listen, it's good for LGBT fans to feel that they're being represented. Oftentimes, all they want is to be represented in whatever way possible. But because I'm not one of them, I don't look for the same things. I'm not itching for that gay character. Their sexual orientation I try to think of as an afterthought. But when the show is incapable of cementing their ship in a very subtle and natural way, when it feels like something is being taken away for the sake of a relationship, I find myself criticizing it because of how intrusive it feels. To a lot of the audience, the response it's been getting is, "It's fan service. They're pandering to the audience." And yeah, but that's kind of what shipping is. It's inherently fan service. It does pander to a specific audience if anything is done. In the same way that a female character would have huge tits, a big ass, and a slim body, it's just innately fan service. So if you're not a fan of fan service, then you're likely not going to be a fan of when the show begins to pander, and this includes me. Now in most cases, I'm capable of simply ignoring the relationship aspect of the show because I don't like it, and I believe a certain synergy that should be maintained as a team isn't. And that's my biggest problem with it. It has nothing to do with them being gay or being homophobic. It's how does it affect the story and the characters, and if it doesn't, then I have nothing to say. But I do feel as though it takes something away from the story, from the team. For someone who doesn't like shipping, being ship-baited was still annoying. Dragging it out for so long did so much more harm than good. Once again, this is my opinion. I'm not trying to convince you of anything really. There's nothing wrong with liking a ship, and there should be absolutely nothing wrong if you don't like it. You know you better than any schmuck on the internet, so don't let anyone tell you how you should feel about something. So don't be a dick about it, you fucking dicks.